Hello, everyone. This is sig-aws. This is January. The date today is January 11th, 2019. Happy New Year, everybody. Hope we all have a great year this year. And we have a couple of items on the agenda. Please, if you do want to cover something, please do feel free to put it on the agenda. Please, it'd be great if you want to put your name in the attending list so we can correlate back who you are, in case we don't know. And a reminder, this meeting is recorded and will be put on the internet on YouTube. And on that note, I think the first item on our agenda is from Nishi, which is I guess it's a link to the videos. Is that right? Looks like you might be.
My dog is barking here, which is why, Justin, why don't you update the video and the KubeCon session?
Okay. Yes, I wasn't actually. Let me just see what this link is to. So yes, I've started posting the videos on our sig-aws channel, and we also we have a link in the minutes to our sig-aws update, which Nishi and myself gave at KubeCon for anyone that was not able to attend. I don't know if there's anything we want to add on that note about what we covered, but the video is there and is, of course, as always, great watching, particularly at double speed.
The other thing I wanted to add, Justin, was a couple of asks from the presentation. I think a couple of folks said that they want to get involved with sig-aws. And we have been creating history of all the issues, open issues related to sig-aws. I think it requires proper labeling. As in, it needs to be labeled as sig-aws, and then it needs to be categorized as a easy, medium, or a hard issue so people can get involved. There is a GitHub org structure that we have created, but it's private right now. And I might need some help in figuring out how to bulk label all the issues. But that's one thing which is work in progress. Do you remember any other feedback from the session?
I think I definitely think you're right to call out the people want to contribute, and it is hard to find places to contribute, or hard to find issues to contribute on, particularly in the KK repo. I think we talked about the idea that there are a lot of projects which are not in the Kubernetes repo, a lot of AWS projects which are not the Kubernetes repo, but are great places to start contributing for people, and are perhaps a little easier and higher, lower effort, higher return, I guess might be the way I would put it. And I see you have two more sub projects for proposal, which I think, but that's definitely the way. These sub projects are still very much part of Kubernetes, and the intention is to make the core of Kubernetes smaller, the Kubernetes repo smaller, so that we're able to better work in multiple repos. So it is not that they are second-class repos. It is just that they are distributed and reflecting our increasing community size. I don't remember anything else in particular that came up. I don't know if anyone else is on the call and has anything they want to call out that we may be forgetting. But yeah, I mean, there are definitely things that need work, and any help is gratefully received.
Yeah, I'll hopefully have an update on how we could categorize the issues and do some bulk tagging in the next call, and we can see what we can improve there.
Yeah, but I was doing a search myself for AWS, and it is insufficient just to search for AWS. So for some reason, lots of other things come up. I guess if people are running on AWS and hit an issue, then it still matches on the GitHub search. So yeah, we definitely need to go through and mark them with the appropriate SIGs where they're not labeled. But yes, and hopefully we will have lots more updates in the coming KubeCon, so we can work on that. I know anyone that's thinking of submitting a talk, I think the deadline for KubeCon EU talk submissions is coming up in about a week. So get working on it if you want to submit a talk for Barcelona. And I think there's one in Asia somewhere, which is around the same time. So those two are the deadlines coming up. I think the next, I think if we should move on to the next agenda item if there's nothing else on that one, which is Chengpang and Nishi again, two new CSI driver subproject proposals for review.
Peng, do you want to go ahead and
Yeah.
we both did, but I'd rather have you present.
Yeah, Nishi probably can supplement like if I miss anything. So the idea is like because AWS has other storage service like EFS for Elastic File System, as well as which is a new launch called FSX. It's for Lustre. It's for like usually used in HPC. And in order to integrate those two service or product into the Kubernetes system, like as a natural extension to the EBS, which are already implemented. So we propose making these two as a separate CSI drivers and being a sub project stay along with the EBS CSI driver.
Yeah, and I think the idea is because we decided that all in-volume provisioning will be eventually removed and all the storage logic will be in CSI drivers. We wanted to just continue the roadmap for CSI drivers. We did EBS, next we want to do EFS, and there are also some customers who want to use Amazon Lustre, which is FSX for HPC apps. And so the two sub-project proposals are to give support for those CSI drivers and essentially try to do an alpha in 1.14.
Yeah.
That sounds great. I think for people that are not aware, these subjects are then sponsored by the SIG, and we basically, if anyone has any objections within the SIG as to why it should not be a project, then we sort of do a verbal confirmation, and then I think we have a further process. I think the one thing I would bring up, less so for the Lustre, but particularly for the NFS one, is maybe, I don't know whether you've talked to SIG Storage about. Like, I think a lot of, I know GCP has an NFS-backed hosted NFS type product, and I know that NFS is also a thing on bare metal, and so I don't know whether SIG Storage thinks those should be how SIG Storage thinks the NFS drivers should be implemented. I mean, to an extent, I guess that's true for Lustre as well, but I feel like Lustre is much less common. But like, to what extent the AWS NFS driver is going to be similar to the GCP NFS driver is going to be similar to the bare metal NFS driver, and whether it makes sense to have how those projects should be organized. So I don't know whether you've spoken to SIG Storage about that.
Not yet. So at least there are some similar thinking like you just asked. Like they're really similar. They're all backed by NFS. One difference I've been so far is like encryption in transit, which I haven't seen anything anywhere else as providing this feature. So might be one of the differentiator for EFS CSI driver.
Okay, and that requires like configuration on the CSI the CSI side, I guess.
It's like its own mount option called the TLS.
Okay, so I mean, I think that's a good. From my point of view, at least, and everyone should feel free to chime in. But from my point of view, I think I'm happy that these would be in SIG AWS. I think we should just check with SIG Storage about whether they agree that every different group would have a separate CSI driver type thing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I would probably bring up if you think it's needed.
I don't know if anyone else has any thoughts on these two, the proposal for these two sub-projects.
So one thing is the CSI spec 1.0 that was updated. We should look at that spec. And I think the idea is to keep the spec generic and then use the underlying storage APIs to expose features. So as we probably write, the driver will figure out feature gaps between different cloud provider vendors. And it's always good to have a discussion. I do think that Saad had an opinion on how the CSI driver features are sort of listed out in the common repository and linked. But then we can discuss that offline also and see if he has any varying opinions. from the input I got from Saad in the past was they're more interested in figuring out a common way to migrate any in-volume calls to the CSI driver logic, because that's going to be common across providers and it requires a lot of work. But other than that, I think like with EBS, we'll probably figure out deltas between, Google Block Storage, Azure Block Storage, and Amazon, and the problems with the API of our service. I haven't seen any spec improvement come from EBS, but maybe there might be some in EFS, not sure.
I don't know if anyone else has any comments either way on the subprojects, but it sounds like otherwise we will take lack of comments to mean lazy consensus and basically general support. Okay, well, it sounds like we are generally on board. I think we should definitely check with SIG storage, but I think that I don't know, Nishi, is the next step. Do you want to do what do you want to do as the next step? An email, or what did you decide?
Yeah, I think an email would be good, talking to SIG storage, just, presenting the idea, and then sending a Google group email. And then once we have that, then we can do the PR for the sub-project migration, which has a lot of steps, and I can follow through and close that.
Is there an existing sub-project for one or both of these?
No, so we have to create new repositories.
Okay, that's probably easier.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. As in, there is existing repository, so we have to transfer it. It doesn't exist in Kubernetes 6, yeah. Okay,
but yes, that has its own process. So I'm sure you will follow it because you are excellent at that. So thank you. We have reached the end of our agenda. I don't know if anyone else has anything they would like to bring up or discuss, or has anything they want to share that they're thinking of working on in 2019. But otherwise, everyone gets some time back of their day.
So I had one idea that I wanted to share or get perspective on. So in the past, I think there was a lot of, it's easy to get direct customer feedback on a product feature that drives revenue, but it's harder to get information on what open source project can be useful to our user group. So I think the roadmap that we showed in KubeCon, I kind of think that if we sort of take that roadmap and put it as a survey and ask, sig-aws Google group and Slack forum, ask people to rank the release plan, it would be a good use of time, but I don't know what people think.
One vote for yes from me and one from your dog, it sounds like.
Sorry about
I personally think that's a great idea to have a survey, because not everyone is able to attend the meetings, and I think I'd also love to see a sort of open-ended your wish list type thing, so that it's not just we're not just prioritizing what's on our roadmap, but trying to capture things we have missed entirely. But I think a survey would be a great idea.
So I did share a sample with you, Justin. Maybe you can give me feedback and then I can send that out and see what people think. I'll also send it out to people on this call so I can get some feedback from everyone.
Yeah, if you can also, I think that'd be great. And we can put it we can discuss it unless there's any urgency, we can discuss it in 2 weeks, but I will also personally have a look at it and yeah.
Okay, cool.
I don't know if anyone else has any other topics they would like to cover or bring up. All right, well, thank you everyone, and we will see you in 2 weeks. Have a wonderful Friday, wonderful weekend.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.